We're here with Senator Marco Rubio, a Republican from Florida, and you've got a new piece of legislation with Senator Kennedy in response to what happened with Equifax that you say is going to protect small businesses. How?
So small business commercial information now is not protected under the law. Individual information is. For a lot of small businesses, they're basically stuck having to use their own personal information and secure personally access to business loans because of the size of their company. Yeah. That's not being protected. So we want them to be protected. Businesses under a certain amount, we're open to defining that in a way that's responsible. But we don't want the personal information of individual business owners to be compromised simply because they used it or they used their personal information to acquire a small business
And
loan.
I was struck about how you're changing the timeline in terms of reporting from 0 to 30-day window. Why is that important?
Well, it's important the same way it is for an individual consumer, and that is it gives you time to go and protect your identity. When your information is stolen, it can be used to open a line of credit in your name. It can ruin your credit, your identity stolen. We have so many people come to our office that have had their identity stolen. It turns your life upside down, sometimes for years.
Yeah. Switching gears now, the president has said that he might put off that meeting with Vladimir Putin over what's going on with the Ukrainian ships at the G20. Smart move?
It is, but I also think it's important for us to use this as an opportunity to rally our European partners to extend the sectoral sanctions that expire at the end of January. I think it's also time to do more for Ukraine, and I think it's time to begin discussing, for example, a permanent NATO presence in that region. In terms of naval assets.
The president says the Saudi Arabia intelligence with the killing of Jamal Khashoggi is inconclusive. You disagree?
Well, I'm not going to discuss any intelligence matters. Suffice it to say that I think what happened with Khashoggi is unacceptable. I don't think we should destroy or walk away from the U.S.-Saudi relationship, but I most certainly think that it needs to be recalibrated, and there needs to be very clear understanding and clear consequences for what has happened. This cannot continue to happen. If we're going to have an alliance with Saudi Arabia, it cannot be one in which they continue to do this and we continue to defend them or look the other way.
You're the leading senator on the issue of Venezuela. There's been some reports that the administration might actually be considering labeling Venezuela as a state sponsor of terrorism. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. Yeah. If you think at the FARC, if you look at the ELN, all of the groups that are threatening Colombia, many of them are housed and operating from Venezuelan territory under the protection of the Venezuelan regime.
And a quick follow-up on that, is that really what's going to happen? I mean, do you really think that's...
Well, that'll be up to the president and the White House to make announcements with regards to that. Suffice it to say there is more than enough evidence to label Venezuela as a state sponsor of terrorism. If you believe the FARC and you believe the ELN and you believe that all of these criminal gangs that are operating in Colombia and killing Colombians are terrorist groups, as I do, they're being sponsored and supported by Venezuela.
Last question. Senator Coons, Senator Flake, they've introduced legislation that would protect, they say, Bob Mueller from being fired by President Trump. Do you agree with that?
Well, I believe that he shouldn't be fired by President Trump. I believe he won't be fired by President Trump. As far as the legislation, I'm not convinced that we need it. I'm open to it if it's ever necessary, but I'd prefer not to solve a problem that doesn't exist right now. I don't know of any efforts to fire Bob Mueller despite press reports. I don't believe he will be, and I continue to say what I've said all along. The best thing for the president and for the United States and all of us is for Bob Mueller to conclude his investigation and present the evidence to the American people so we can all move forward and we all know exactly what happened. I believe that's in the best interest of the president.